Brookline Hub In-Depth is presented by the 501c3 nonprofit BrooklineHub.com. BrooklineHub.com are the proud founders of the Brookline Youth Awards. Now in its 11th year, the Brookline Youth Awards is an opportunity for Brookline residents to hear about the character, challenges, and dreams of its young people as well as adults dedicated to their success through the power and intimacy of video interviews shown on the big screen at the Coolidge Corner Theater. This year, the 11th Brookline Youth Awards will present Lisa Irvings and Michael Brill with the 2021 Suriel Guerrero Parent of the Year Award. Last week, our founder, Harvey Bravman, interviewed Lisa and Michael from the stage of the Coolidge. What you are about to see is the full interview between Harvey and Lisa and Michael. A 3-minute version will be seen at the 11th Brookline Youth Awards. The 11th Brookline Youth Awards can be viewed on March 8th at 7 p.m. on all Brookline Interactive Group and BrooklineHub.com channels.
My name is Lisa Irvings.
And my name is Michael Brill.
I'm an occupational therapist in the Boston Public Schools. I have been for 30 years now.
I do cybersecurity engineering. Not anything I really thought I'd be doing earlier on in my life, but I work for a defense contractor on a contract with the Air Force doing cybersecurity for a specific fleet of aircraft.
So tell me who is in your family. Tell me about you have two sons?
Two sons.
So tell me about them.
Okay. Nathan, our older son, is in college. And then Henry is a senior at Brookline High School.
And you know, I guess the reason why you were pretty much unanimous choices for Parents of the Year are just people recognize the amazing person that Henry is, and that the way he is, and I think he's transformed for a lot of people what their vision is of someone who has Down syndrome. Could you tell me a little about Down syndrome so that I can understand, or the audience can understand?
So our son Henry has Down syndrome. And that includes certain developmental limitations and some physical, muscle tone issues and stuff. Henry has he's an incredibly hard worker. He has overcome those limitations far beyond what I think we expected or most people expect. He's been on the high school swim team for all 4 years. He passed the MCAS exams. He's just a really hard worker. Part of that credit, I think, is due to Lisa having gotten him the supports that he was both entitled to but needed early on, all through elementary school and preschool. But a lot of it is just who Henry is.
What I was told when he was little, when he actually, surprisingly, because he's quite athletic now, his gross motor skills were his weakest area. He didn't walk until 2.5, and I was told that some kids were just better in the physical and some were more cognitive, but I feel, we do a lot of activities with the Down syndrome community. He's been in an adaptive ballet class since he was 6 with other Down syndrome kids, and we've gotten very close to the families. And I do feel there's a real range of abilities within that. It was very overwhelming at first. I think what was so different is that, you spent all this time with early intervention and, services and people in your space and all of that, you know, but I think the hardest for me, the beginning people were saying to me, I'd take him to the park, and he was always very social. He was always very high functioning in his skills, and they would say, like, when do you start seeing, you know, the issues with Downs? And about the time that all these kids started to walk and talk, and those things took a long time, you know, so, for Henry, and he got there, but it took a lot longer. And I think that was the time that I think there are various times that were harder. And I think that was when I found it the hardest in the early years.
When the difference was...
When the difference became very, much more visible.
So, you know, Henry starts developing the signs that you knew were going to come because you knew he had Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And at first he's, you know, not showing it because that's how that. Tell me some of the things that you did to make sure that Henry got what he needed. And were there challenges along the way trying to get Henry the support system that he needed?
Well, he didn't talk till he was 2 or about 2, but he learned basic sign language and could express his needs. I mean, his favorite sign was cookie, but it still is. He's the one sign he still uses.
Yeah.
But so there was that, just getting him as much help as we could.
Yeah, it was definitely exhausting. I think, you know, my family, my sister and sister-in-law and my parents were very helpful in terms of doing whatever they could, but I found it really hard. I remember there was one time where I was trying to get respite service. To help us as a family, I kept getting denied, and I'd be told, well, if there's one more thing, and then I'd have the one more thing, and I'd be denied. And and it wasn't the money for this service, it was not a whole lot, and my family was helpful with financial support if I needed something for Henry. But I felt so frustrated by the fact that even though I knew the system, I couldn't get these services. It felt so unfair, and I just felt like I needed to keep going until I could make my point that, you know, that here I was, somebody who does this work. I had done early intervention work for many years, and I knew the system, and I couldn't get what I needed. And I had to keep it going until I talked to the top person and said that, because I was so frustrated about what this meant, how hard it was to get services for a kid in a family that needed support with a child.
What I was going to say too was part of it was, as much as Henry, you know, meeting Henry's needs, we also had another son whose needs we also had to meet. So it was like splitting, you know, not wanting to make sure that Nathan wasn't being neglected, giving him equal time. I have a friend who had a younger brother with, you know, disabilities, and I could tell from her that she had resentment towards her brother because of her not getting attention. You know, it was something that was important to both of us that, you know, Nathan never felt that. And the two boys have a great relationship. I mean, they really love each other. And that's been great. And
Nathan's an amazing big brother, and when I think about, you know, there's so many hard things in terms of raising kids generally, and particularly, you know, when you have a child who has special needs. But the thing I feel that we've done better than that shows me all the time that we've been successful is their relationship. because they have such an incredible relationship. And I think not that, you know, that Henry's needs obviously put a different dynamic in things, but they have a wonderful relationship, and Nathan's just an incredible big brother.
Henry's gotten so many nominations the last few years, but one of the nominations this year's was Ilan, and I think that he got 2 this year, I'm not sure, but you were, Lisa, you were mentioned in it, in the nomination, and he talked about, you know, just how you, and I'm sure he's probably talking to you,
Yeah.
and this is coming from both of you, of just, you know, that Henry had this attitude that he could do anything.
Yeah.
And that he was empowered. And so which made Elon's job easier, that he didn't have to teach Henry to feel empowered. He already had that in his parents.
Well, I think that's why, you know, when I say that what we feel we've done best, and I think I speak for Michael saying this, is the relationship of our kids and who our kids are as people. You know, I know all these people whose kids are successful in so many ways, but I mean, below it, I underneath it, I feel like our kids are just good kids, and anyone who knows them, you know, camp directors and teachers, that's the first thing they would say about them, and that's where I feel, you know, at the end of the day, that's what matters. And I think empowering Henry has been not that hard, because Henry is the one who decided that he was going to do everything.
No, he's a great advocate for himself.
And if anything, there have been points where I was, you know, I was a little worried, like when I said all those times, you know, he was like, first semester, he has a wonderful Learning Center teacher now, but he had the same one for 3 years, and who was also wonderful. And he was saying, I want to go out of these small group classes. And his teacher said, well, why don't you write a letter to your mom? And I get this letter, and, you know, and I said no at that point. I said, let's see how it goes. And I went to his meeting is usually around December, late November, December, and I went to his meeting, and they were encouraging me to have him move up to a co-taught social studies class. And this happened every semester. It was another, you know, like, or the following year, I think he started in 2 more. But a lot of this was Henry saying, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I want to do. And so I think he's made that piece easy.
That's sort of one of the lessons, right? I mean, for you know, part of what we try to do with this event is educate people. And so they think they're seeing a bunch of kids getting awards, when really all of it is about education, because we learn through other people's challenges and what is Down syndrome and what isn't it. You know, Henry, you can have Down syndrome and have a personality and have a work ethic and have a will that doesn't give up. That's part of, you can have character, and Henry has character, and that stands out, that has nothing to do, Down syndrome isn't about character, it's about a certain developmental challenges that people are born with, but it's not that you don't have a character, and he has one, and so do you. So, you know, do you think that part of just the fact that he is who he is, I mean, he's one of the most popular kids in the high school, he's one of the most popular kids in the high school that I've ever seen.
But I think, again, the high school has kind of, I mean, we've supported him, he's believed, we've tried to support him. he's taken the attitude, I can do anything, but again, I'm dealing with like looking at the world outside of the high school, and there's still a lot of people who don't get this, and that he can do anything. And he needs support. It's not that he doesn't need support. It's not that sometimes his learning process to do it is not more. But if you look at what he's done, like the example of his being successful in his English class, which I worried about a little because it's not a traditional class, he just works so hard and he's so organized that the combination, you can have good raw material, and if you don't work at it, you know, I see some of these kids who think that life's going to come easy because they, you know, they did well in school, and, you know, that whatever, they're good at whatever they do, but it takes more than that to be successful in life. And I think what Henry has learned, it's taken him a long time to do a lot of things. He comes to it later, but then he's determined that he's going to work so hard to master it.
He's going to college next year?
He's going into the transition program at Brookline High School, and he will be taking some college classes through a program that has some supports. And then his goal is to go to a 4-year college.
Do you, any message that you want to share with Brookline Community?
I read a quote recently when the author of The Phantom in the Tollbooth passed away. There was a quote in the Globe, and I tore the thing out because it was like, this was Henry to me. It said, everything is possible unless you believe it's impossible. And I guess that's Henry to me and why he's so successful. But I think looking at it from the community, it's everybody can achieve unless you believe they can't achieve. And my biggest struggle, you know, has been, in the early days, it was getting him the support he needed to be able to be successful. And more recently, as we look at him in the community and in the, you know, in the post-high school community, which is a struggle for a lot of kids, it's getting people to see, you know, who he is and what he can do, and not judge him by his disability or his small stature or the fact that he can, when you don't know him, be a little hard to understand.
I guess, early on, I found myself often tempted to talk him down from his lofty goals, but he's achieved so many of them that now it's just, well, we'll work at it, you know, we'll try and find a way.
I feel the same way. I think about the fact that there was one point where he was a little frustrated by MCAS, and they took him back in. They gave him a break. He was in phys ed, and he was supposed to go finish. And I think this was 6th grade, and he didn't want to go back. And I went to the next meeting, and it's like, are we at the point where maybe we should consider something else? And thankfully, there was a wonderful team leader at that point, and she said, it's the wrong time. She's like, Lisa, they're pulling out all these different things. She said, don't do it now. And, you know, he passed on his first try, all of them, physics, you know, the English and math, but also physics. And I mean, you know, I think that some of those things, like Michael was saying, it's happened so many times that he's just said he was going to do this and he's done it. That we are at a point, you know, it's like, I remember, years ago when he was talking about college, where I just tense up because I was like, what are we going to do when he gets there? And now when he says he's going to go to a 4-year college, it's like, I believe this is going to happen. And I'm not saying it's always going to be easy for him or for us, but this will happen because this is what we've seen, exactly what Michael was talking about, that, you know, we try at times to redirect him, and we couldn't redirect him, and then he'd accomplish it. So, yeah. So I think that's the most important thing.
Hi, my name is Danielle Myers of ADW Video Productions and BrooklineHub.com. BrooklineHub.com is a 501c3 nonprofit online publication dedicated to community building through local reporting and events. 2 years ago, we screened a short film as part of this event that I had the privilege of working on. Brookline Facing Civil Rights was produced by our founder, Harvey Bravman. The film is about the experiences of African Americans who helped break the wall of segregation that existed in Brookline before the civil rights laws were passed in the 1960s. Last year, the film sold out the Coolidge Corner Theater and included a panel discussion on inclusivity. You can stream the film and the discussion on BrooklineHub.com in exchange for a donation to the Brookline Community Foundation's Safety Net Fund. You can also stream Soul Witness, a film that features interviews with Brookline Holocaust survivors conducted 30 years ago, on soulwitness.org.